Hi, I'm Alexander Maxim from Ethiopian.io. Today we will continue our series about PHP. We will check the array diff key, array diff, array intersect key, and array change key keys methods. Let's start with the array diff key method. What's the array diff key method? This method compares the passed arrays as parameters and returns the difference between them. This function is similar to the array diff function, but it's compared by using keys, not values. It has at least two arrays as parameters, and it returns a new array of values in the first array whose keys do not exist in any of the other arrays. This method checks only one dimension of multi-dimensional arrays. Of course, you can check deeper dimensions using the square brackets. Let's take an example to understand the array diff key method. Firstly, we will use the echo method to print a title with each three elements array diff key. I will create an array of languages. It's an associative array, so I have an associative array languages. For example, 3 languages exist in the world, and I will create another language or another array which is the existing languages. It's another array. I have just the French language. So in my country I have just the French language. The existing languages is just the French language, and in the world we have for example, 3 other languages. Using the array diff key, I will return all the languages exist in the world and not exist in my country. And to do that, I need to use the printr method, and I will use the array diff key method. I will pass 2 arrays as parameters. The first is the languages, and the second is the existing languages. Let's reload and see the result. So firstly, let's use the echo pre-tag to be more clear, and this is the result. So we have the English and Spanish. The array diff key returned the elements exist in the languages array and not exist in the second array, which is the existing languages. So when we pass 2 arrays as parameters for the array diff key, it will return all the elements exist in the first array and not exist in the second array. Let's see how it works. So we have the array diff key. We have 2 arrays as parameters. This is the first array and this is the second array. It will check if there is elements in the first array. So we have elements, it's interested in keys, so it will check if key 1 exists in the second array. So key 1 not exists in the second array, so it will return key 1 or return all these elements in the resulting array. So we have this element. It will check if key 3 exists in the first and in the second array. So we have also here key 3 in the second array, so it will ignore this element. It will check also key 4. Key 4 not exists in the second array. So in the second array we have key 2, key 3, key 5 and key 6. Key 4 not exists, so it will return all these elements, and we will get this element in the resulting array. So we have key 1 and key 4. Why? Because these 2 elements not exist or not present in the second array, so it's interested in keys, not values. Key 6 also exists in the second array. So we have 2 circles. For example, this is the first array and this is the second array. It will return all elements exist just in the first array, and all these elements will be ignored. So it will ignore all these elements exist in the first and the second array, and also exist just only in the second array. So it will return all these elements exist in the first, just only in the first array. After that, you have the array diff method. What's the array diff method? This method compares the array with one or more other arrays and returns the values in them that are not in the other arrays. It has at least two arrays as parameters, and it returns a new array containing all elements in the first array that are not present in any of the other arrays. So the same principle or the same concept of the array diff key, but just the single difference between them is that the array diff key interested in keys and the array diff method in values. So let's take an example to understand the difference between them and when we can use the array diff method. So let's use a title, or let's print a title using h3 hidden. We have the array diff method. I will create an array of students. It's an indexed array. So I have an array of students. We have Alexander, Alex, Mike, Arden, and John. And now I want to create another array, students success, or the successful students. It's another array. And now I will just use echo and h5 element. I will print students, and I will use the print r to print the array of the students, or the list of students. I will copy and paste this instruction 2 times. So we have the students, or the success, like that, students. I will pass the other array as parameter. And firstly, let's remove and see the results. So we have all the students, Alexander, Alex, Mike, Arden, John, and the successful students, I have just Alexander, Arden, John. What's the rest? The rest is Mike and Alex. How to get the rest from this array? Using the array diff method. So I will here use this title, the rest, and I will pass array diff as parameter to the printr method because it returns another array. I will pass the students because it has at least array diff, not array diff k. It has at least 2 arrays as parameters. So the first array is the students, and the second array is the students sucks. And let's reload and see, and we have Alex and Mike. So the array diff k has returned the rest from these 2 arrays. So it will check if Alexander exists in the first and in the second array. It will ignore this element. Alex is not, so Alex is not in the second array, so it will return this element with the key. Also Mike not exists in the second array, it will return Mike. Arden exists in the first and the second, and John exists in the first and in the second. So let's see how it works exactly. So we have the array diff, we have 2 arrays as parameters like the array diff k, and here as you see here, the same key, so it's interested in values, just the difference in the values. We have value 1 not exists in the second array and exists in the first array, so we will get this result, this element in the resulting array. Also value 3 not exists in the second array, so we will get this element also in the resulting array. Key or value 4 exists in the first and in the second array, it will ignore this element. And also value 6 exists here in the first and in the second array, so it will ignore this element, and it will return just value 1 and value 3 because they are just in array 1. So this is the first array, for example, and this is the second array. It will return all the elements exist just and only in the first array, and it will ignore the rest. And it's just an example to see when we can use the array diff method. After the array diff method, we have the array intersect key. What's the array intersect key? This method returns all elements of the array whose keys are in all other arrays. It has at least two arrays as parameters, and it returns a linked array containing all elements of the existing array with all other arrays. It's like the array intersect method, but it's interested in comparing keys. So let's take an example to understand and to see the difference between the array intersect key and the array diff key. I will use the same example of the array diff key. So I will use echo method always to print the title of the method. We have array intersect key, and I will use the array or print r. I will use array intersect key. I will pass the languages and the existing languages as parameters. Let's reload and see the results. So we have the array intersect key, we have fr French. Why we get this result? And when we have used the array diff key, the result is English and Spanish. What's the difference between the array diff key and the array intersect key? So array diff key will return all elements exist in the languages array and not exist in the existing languages. The array intersect is the contrary. It will return all the elements exist in the languages array and also exist in the existing languages. This is the difference between the array diff key and the array intersect key. Let's see how it works. So the array intersect key always accepts at least two arrays as parameters. So we have two arrays, the first array and the second array. It will check if there is elements in our first array. So we have elements. It will check if key 1 exists in the first, and also it must exist in the second array. So key 1 not exist. It will ignore this element. It will check if k3 exists in the first and also in the second. So we have also k3 in the second array. It will return k3 in the resultant array. It will get this element. K4 exists just in the first array, so and not exist in the second array. It will ignore also this element. K6 exists in the first and also in the second array, so it will return K6 in the resultant array. Briefly, the array intersect key will return all elements exist in the first and also in the second array. It's the first array and here the second array. It will ignore these elements, it will ignore these elements, and it will return the area that the elements exist in the first and in the second array. After the array intersect key, and finally we have the array change key keys. What's the array change key keys? This method returns an array that contains all the array keys passed as parameter to the function after converting its keys to large or small. Note that the numeric keys will remain unchanged as they are. It has two parameters. The first is the array. The second parameter is the keys, which is the Latin keys, large keys upper and or small keys lower. This method returns an array containing keys whose keys has been converted to a large or small keys, or the false value if the parameter type is not an array. If the array is empty, it will return a warning error. Let's see an example to see the difference between the upper and lower keys using the array change key keys. So I will use echo and h3 element, a title. I will use the array change key keys, and I will use the array flip method. Flipped array flip method. I will pass the languages as parameter, and I will use echo. Firstly, I will use print r flipped array to understand why I'm using the flipped array. So just to be more clear, because if we use en and es, it's not clear to understand the difference or the change, or the action that the array change keys does. So I have used the array flip to change between the keys and the values to be the key, like that, more clear. I will use also echo with each 5 elements. I will use upper, and I will use print r. I will pass the array change keys. I will pass the language, the flipped array, and the second parameter case upper, like that. Let's see the results. So we have the upper, we have English, like that. This is the normal array, and when we use the array change keys, I have changed the keys of the key to capital letter, like that. And I want also to change it to lower keys, to small letters, and to do that I will change just upper to lower. And this is the result. So we have the normal array English, the first letter is capital and the other is normal, small. When we use the array change keys with the parameter keys upper, we have this result, and when we use in the lower, this is the result. Let's see how it works. So we have one array and two results in upper and lower. This array, the first letter here, the first letter is capital and the other are in the small keys. When we pass this array with the parameter case upper, we will get this result. All the letters will be in a capital, and when we pass this array, the same array with the parameter case lower, all the keys will be in small, will be smaller. And this is the array change keys method. Today we have learned the array diff key, the array diff, the array intersect key, and the array change keys. Thank you for your watching.